because of the death of Queen Elizabeth II, the world has its eye of what's happening in the Russo-Ukrainian war, and there have been actually other notable developments over the past 48 hours. Because for about a month, the Ukrainians were harping on Kherson, 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 that city in the southeast corner of Ukraine, and were the Ruskies going to be cut off west of the Dnieper River? And so, was Putin there going to back down or double down? 27,000 soldiers in that city. The smart thing to do would be to withdraw. It's not that important to hold the city. You could prevent the Ukrainians advancing because they've got that big river to get across. Your men would get out, might leave a bit of the equipment behind, but avoid them being enveloped. And there's a possibility they'll be cut off, the bridge is destroyed, and they'll not have any resupply or any way of withdrawal, and eventually be forced to surrender. That would be the biggest Russian defeat since 1942. Imagine that, the biggest defeat in 80 years on Putin's watch. I know in 42 it would have been a Soviet defeat, but 50% Russian. But Putin doesn't really like to draw a distinction between Russian and Soviet. But this might have been part of Ukraine's cunning strategy to draw more Russian troops into Kherson, where they may well be cut off anyway, and then launch this surprise attack in Kharkiv. So Kharkiv, in northeast Ukraine, and but they already hold Kharkiv. They've held it throughout the war, the second largest city in Ukraine, and it's a Russophone city, but obviously doesn't want to be part of Russia. And Putin's way of like saving these Russian-speaking civilians is by killing them. Anyway, the Ukrainians have made fairly rapid advances to the east of Kharkiv, which the Russians didn't see coming. And how do they not see this military build-up? So that they claim to have advanced 50 kilometers in one day. That's probably not true. I'm bored of quoting William Howard Russell. The first casualty of war is truth. So have to play up your victories, downplay your defeats, and so forth, and massage statistics rather roughly sometimes. But there's no doubt that they have gained ground. The question is just how much. So they've been flag waving about this one, and it's been confirmed from the Russian side that they're sending more reinforcements there. Therefore, it's serious. It's not something that petty. And from Russian open sources, you can see there have been some losses. They really have been pushed back. The Ukrainians have retaken some towns, and sizable towns, of populations of 30,000, that they lost 6 months earlier. And obviously, coming up to the Russian frontier, the question is, would they cross the border? In some ways, that'd be good because put the Russians on the back foot. They'd really feel they need to defend that. The Russians might realize, the civilian population, oh my goodness, we're actually even losing our own land. This war is a failure for us. Or would that make them fight harder? Would it overstretch the Ukrainians? Would it actually bolster Russian pugnacity when they say, well, they're trying to take over our land, so we've got to fight to defend our homeland? I mean, obviously, Russia's fault for trying to take Ukraine's homeland. But the Ukrainians want to demonstrate to NATO that it is worth backing them. And just today, the German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock is in Kiev, so they're pleading the Germans for more weapons. The Ukrainians want more weapons with which to fight the Russian invaders, because Germany's promised a lot and not delivered everything they should. But they have given howitzers and so on, some anti-aircraft missiles. Anyway, so the Russians didn't see this advance in the east coming. So they've been sending tanks, artillery, support vehicles, which they've shown on their state media. So even a pro-Russian separatist bureaucrat in East Ukraine, Denis Pushilin, said the situation in Donetsk is very difficult and in a number of other vicinities. So anyway, Kupiansk is one that was taken back by Ukrainian special forces. So this is all actually very newsworthy, but it's not getting any airtime because people are talking about the succession of King Charles the Third. So yeah, the German foreign minister is there on her second trip to Ukraine, and the Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, he went to Berlin just a few days ago, saying we really need more weapons. And only yesterday, the U.S. Secretary of State said they're going to donate another $3 billion worth of weapons to Ukraine. But again, it's been knocked off the headlines by the death of the Queen. The NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that the Russians are paying a very heavy price, both economically and politically, for their illegal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. But we mustn't exaggerate how well this is going for Ukraine. They're still suffering significant losses. Kharkiv is still within missile range, and so they are still shelling it, killing a few civilians, injuring 14, I think, yesterday. Well, that's not actually doesn't really make sure a difference to the military campaign. I hate to be heartless, but it doesn't. If you kill people who are not actually productive for the war effort, yes, it's horrific, but it doesn't actually really weaken Ukraine's ability to wage war. If you kill infants, if you kill elderly people, I know that's ghastly, but they're not helping the war effort, which is another reason why those who don't need to be there should get out to safety. Anyway, so the war is continuing unabated. The question is, what effect will the death of Queen Elizabeth have on this war effort at all, if anything? The Ukrainians obviously been falling over themselves to commiserate with the British and people from other Commonwealth realms, such as Canada, about the death of their much beloved sovereign, because they wish to ingratiate themselves with people who are subjects of Her Britannic Majesty. And obviously, the funeral is going to come up on roughly the 18th of September. Now, President Volodymyr Zelensky has not left Ukrainian territory since the invasion commenced on the 24th of February, but this might be an opportunity to go, partly to express his sympathy with the British people in their time of bereavement, but also it would be a golden opportunity to meet all the world leaders. This new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, he's not met her since she became Prime Minister, and she's got so much to deal with at home, she's not going to Ukraine anytime soon. Joe Biden will doubtless be there, and various other Western leaders. Even just 5 minutes a word in their ear will be worth it. So there's no sense that he's running away, and if not, be represented by the Prime Minister or maybe the First Lady of Ukraine. And whilst he's there, could address the British Parliament. If he can't go, just send the Ukrainian Prime Minister and can address the British Parliament. Doing it online is really not the same. So winter is coming, and the European Union doesn't seem to be as worried about this lack of Russian oil and gas as you thought. The sixth round of sanctions is coming. Well, yeah, he would be there decked out in mourning in a black suit. I'm sure he would observe protocol, a white tie, a black shirt, and so forth, and probably shave off his beard that he's been cultivating since the invasion. He's not been seen out of military uniform since that time. He probably considers it very important to signal that these are not normal times. He is the commander in chief. So the war is not going well for Russia. It's not going disastrously. They haven't suffered major defeats, but their progress is just painfully slow. They're low on everything. But they think that the West has got an attention span of 5 minutes. The Queen's death proves this, and that soon they will be imploring the Ruskies to turn the oil and gas back on. Well, the opposite. The sixth round of sanctions been announced by the European Union. You're not allowed to get any Russian oil and gas quite soon. The oil can't be brought in by pipeline. Is it from December and can't be brought in? And oil products like petroleum diesel can't be brought in after February 2023. So they're going further. And so they're not backing down, looks like. Although there is signs of dissent. If the Hungarians are allowed to buy Russian oil, why have they got an exemption? Why don't we have that exemption? Some Czechs are talking about this. 80,000 Czechs protested to end sanctions. Not necessarily oil and gas at an affordable price. Remember, the Czech Republic has got 10 million people, so 80,000 people marching a demonstration in Prague. Now that's significant, and I'm afraid to say that's going to grow. So Putin's long game of thinking that Western will break, the unity will fracture, that could actually work out for him, I'm sorry to say. So yeah, we shall see. Because 18 months from now is the tipping point when the Russian economy will not be able to sustain this war. They might have to call it quits, have some sort of peace deal at this point. How much can Ukraine gain back in that time? But I think the West is too pussyfooted, hasn't given the heavy enough, long enough range weapons. And I know it's heartbreaking because they're good people on both sides, and they're bad people on both sides. It's not all the Russians are evil. That's preposterous. Even those who support this war. And it's not that all Ukrainians are good, even those who are fighting to save their country. The truth is much untidier than that. Good and evil can coexist at one person. And there might be an individual who's very affable, who's kind to his children, who's loving to his wife, who's good to charity, who's just really the life and soul of the party, who could also be a most horrific Putinite. It's not the case that these people who are Putinists grow horns and look wicked and are loathsome in every regard, or someone who's a gallant defender of Ukraine might be despicable in other ways. So that is the difficult thing, how the way evil people do good things and vice versa. Thank you so much for watching the channel. Make sure you donate on PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. Goodbye.